All right, Trump's team has finally released their response to the articles of impeachment. This is in anticipation of the upcoming Senate trial for the impeachment of the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. This is slated to start next week, and I will be following along. If possible, I will be live streaming some of the hearings so we can see what's happening. But this has all the hallmarks of a complete sham impeachment, and we're going to talk about why his legal team says so as well. Now, this has been following the news that Chief Justice John Roberts will not be presiding over the impeachment. I did a video on this, and my statement on it is that if you are trying a president of the United States, you have to have the Chief Justice preside. The Chief Justice doesn't have the option to opt out or anything like that. The Chief Justice is not presiding over this case, which means you're not impeaching a president of the United States, which means that this impeachment is a circus. That's the long and short of it. There is no constitutional validity to the impeachment. Now, will that stop Congress? Let me ask you, have you ever known Congress to care what the Constitution says? No, of course not. They pretend to from time to time, but they don't. And they don't actually care about it now. So they're going to run through this impeachment trial. Thankfully, we've already had a vote from Senator Rand Paul, and that got 45 Republicans to put down on paper in public that they believe that this is an unconstitutional impeachment as well. So for Donald Trump to actually be convicted on this impeachment, you would need all 5 of the Republicans who said this was constitutional, plus 12 other Republicans to flip on that idea and subsequently vote that Donald Trump is guilty of the averments in this impeachment articles, and that would then convict him. So that's a very, very long road. It looks like this is going to be just a circus for a bunch of Democrats to grandstand, and unfortunately, we'll have to listen to Chuck Schumer talk about whatever he wants to talk about, maybe inciting erections or whatever he said before. I'm not going to go through this whole document. What I'm going to do, it's 14 pages. It's linked. I know this is a CNN page, but it's just really a link to the document itself. The CNN page says very little about it. You can find lots of very biased coverage of these articles of impeachment where they say Donald Trump doubles down on his claims of election fraud, and they really don't. Like, that is a complete misrepresentation of the thrust of the defenses. The overwhelming defense of this document, or in this document, is that the Constitution does not allow the impeachment of a former president. And it's a very, very good argument, and it's well laid out. But that's not the only deficiency. That's not the only deficiency. So we're going to read their legal defenses here. It's just 2 pages. I don't like to tend to read things on these short videos, but these are important, and we're going to burn through them really quickly, okay? Real quick, if you don't know, I'm Nick Recato of Recato Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer and legal and political commentator here on YouTube. You should subscribe if you like stuff like this, because this is what I do. And it's fun. So that being said, we're going to go through all the defenses here. But I encourage you to check out the link and read the full 14-page document. We're going to go through about 2 pages. Okay, so the Senate of the United States lacks jurisdiction over the 45th president because he holds no public office from which he can be removed. And the Constitution limits the authority of the Senate in cases of impeachment to removal from office as a prerequisite active remedy allowed the Senate under our Constitution. So Trump's not in office. He can't be removed from office since he's not in office. Therefore, the Senate doesn't have the ability to remove him. And of course, what the Democrats are going for is disqualification, which is that second part. But that is subsequent to removal. If he can't be removed, can they disqualify him? They're arguing no. This is entirely improper. The Senate of the United States lacks jurisdiction over the 45th president because he holds no public office from which he can be removed, rendering the article of impeachment moot and a non-justiciable question. And this would be a good argument in a court of law as well. Now, in a court of law, you would make an argument that that second portion is co-equal to the first in importance, and therefore the first would be a vote to remove him, quote unquote, effective as of the date of the articles of impeachment being filed. But they haven't made that argument. So And this isn't a court of law. This is a court of politics. The impeachment trial of Donald Trump has rules that are followed in the Senate, but they are not the rules of court. So they are making an analog, right, argument that this would be dismissed as moot in a court of law. Should the Senate act on the articles of impeachment initiated in the House of Representatives, it will have passed a bill of attainder in violation of Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 of the United States Constitution. That is where a bill of attainder is basically where you make something a crime retroactively and punish someone when it wasn't a crime before. Now, part of their big crux of their argument is that Donald Trump was exercising at all times his rights as a citizen and president to free speech, to enjoy the protections of speech that other aspects of government may not find popular. The entire purpose of free speech is that it may not be popular. If you only allowed popular speech, it wouldn't be free. That'd just be approved ideas are approved. That's not useful at all. Disapproved ideas must be allowed to in public. That's the whole purpose of protecting speech. The article of impeachment misconstrues protected speech and fails to meet the constitutional standard for any impeachable offense. House of Representatives, this is a big section here. They deprive the 45th president of due process of law in rushing to issue the articles of impeachment by ignoring its own procedures and precedents going back to the mid-19th century. The lack of due process included, but was not limited to, its failure to conduct any meaningful committee review or other investigation. So there wasn't even really any debate about this. This didn't go through the normal processes, is what they're arguing here. Engage in any full and fair consideration of evidence in support of the article, as well as the failure to conduct any full and fair discussion by allowing the 45th president's positions to be heard in the House chamber. So what they're alleging is that there should have been a debate, almost like a mini trial in the House, and that only after that should they vote on the articles of impeachment. They didn't do that. This is entirely a political vote with every single Democrat voting in lockstep and 10 Republicans who have potentially betrayed their own voters. And they're suffering the political consequences of that. Looking at you, Liz Cheney, would like to see you removed from Wyoming. No exigent circumstances under the law were present, excusing the House of Representatives' rush to judgment. Now, and this is evident. They don't really say this here, but this is evident because they didn't deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate until after President Joe Biden was inaugurated, which means they could have waited. It would be equally invalid if they had waited to impeach Trump till after the inauguration, after all this consideration had taken place. They could have even debated whether or not they had the authority to impeach him at the time they did, and they didn't do it. So there's no exigent circumstance. You could normally maybe say, well, we needed to do it now because we needed him to be impeached and to have that trial happen before the inauguration while he was a sitting president. But they were in no hurry to do that. So there's no exigent circumstance according to their own conduct. The House of Representatives' action in depriving the 45th president of due process of law created a special category of citizenship for a single individual, the 45th president. Should this body not act in favor of the 45th president, the precedent set by the House of Representatives would become such that persons as the 45th president, similarly situated, no longer enjoy the rights of all American citizens guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. The actions by the House make clear that in their opinion, 45th president does not enjoy the protections of liberty upon which this great nation was founded, where free speech and indeed free political speech form the backbone of all American liberties. None of the traditional reasons permitted the government to act in such haste, i.e. exigent circumstances, were present. The House had no reason to rush its proceedings, disregard its own precedents and procedures, engage in zero committee or other investigation, and fail to grant the accused his opportunity to be heard in person or through counsel. All basic tenets of due process of law. There was no exigency, as evidenced by the fact that the House waited until after the end of the president's term to even send the articles over, and there was thus no legal or moral reason for the House to act as it did. Political hatred has no place in the administration of justice anywhere in America, especially in the Congress of the United States. And that's a nice mic drop for them on this. This is really laying out. Remember, this is a political trial, not a legal trial, and they do get to make very grandstandy arguments on the higher principles of governance. They're going to do that because it helps their case. They're appealing to the Republicans in the room. They're not going after a jury, and there's no legal standard for what they're doing on both sides. The Articles of Impeachment violates the 45th President's right to free speech and thought guaranteed under the First Amendment. The article is constitutionally flawed in that it charges multiple instances of allegedly impeachable conduct in a single article. Now, I'm not going to read through this anymore, this particular one, because look at how long it is, and these get really long. Let me summarize for you. The idea, actually not the idea, the Senate rule requires that each article of impeachment separate out every charge into a new article. So you can't have, well, he incited violence and did this, or, well, he tried to intimidate someone and did this. Each averment has to have a uniquely identifiable clause or charge in it. It has to, because they're going to vote on each and every one of these. And so what you can't do is mix two of them, because if you mix two of them, then you might have one person who agrees with the first part and one person who agrees with the second part, but they don't agree with the other parts respectively. Well, then you get two votes for one article of impeachment. That doesn't jive out, because you have to have a 2/3 majority on every single charge, or on any single charge in the impeachment. Okay. So you can't have two things combined. Now they basically say this was intentional, and they say if it wasn't intentional, it was due to them being way too hasty. So there's the summary of that page and a half. The Chief Justice of the United States is not set to preside over the proceedings contemplated by the Senate. And I talked about this at the beginning of the video. Same sort of thing. If the Chief Justice isn't presiding, it can't be constitutional, because it's not, because he was the President of the United States when impeached. They're impeaching him as the President of the United States. They have to therefore try him as the President of the United States. If he's not tried as the President, he's tried as a private citizen. And the Senate doesn't have jurisdiction to try a private citizen. So those are the main legal defenses that they have. Again, I fully encourage you to check out the whole of this document linked down below, but I have tried to summarize those legal defenses very well for you. Tell me what you think down below about this impeachment. I will be, like I said, covering it all through, but I would love to hear your thoughts as we go and as things change and as new information arises. So please drop a comment and let me know what you think. And until next time, peace. Peace.